year ago where we really didn't know what direction we were going to go, based on some direction from not only the governor's office, but the Department of Public Health. So as some of you know, football has already started. The rest of our sports will start on the 26th or a little later. And we're just, I can't tell you how thrilled we are to have kids back in the building, ready to represent Xavier and compete on our fields. Safety is our number one concern as we head into the fall. We all know what the Delta variant is doing to the numbers around the state. As you all know, and you've seen from my weekly emails, we are under a mask mandate inside Xavier High School. We are also under a mask mandate anytime an adult or a student steps onto a school bus. The school bus is a federal mandate. It is deemed the same as an airplane or a train. So everybody must have a mask on inside a bus. Outside of the building, mask can be removed. Certainly, if a student athlete would like to leave his mask on outside, that is totally appropriate and up to them. I would ask all of you as parents to make sure that your son always has a mask with him, whether it's in a book bag, it's in his gym bag, what have you. Yes, he will be wearing one inside the school all day long, but we also know when they go outside, they can get wet, sweaty, what have you. Always try to have a mask or two available. We certainly at this school have tons of extra masks, but again, when you're getting on a bus, you will need that. You know, we're blessed at Xavier with a long tradition of athletics, and we're thrilled that we're ready to start up again. But again, it's just one part of what we're trying to do at Xavier High School. It's academics, it's their spiritual growth, it's their physical growth. It's one part of their day. We recognize that it's an important part of their day. As longtime athletic director Tony Jaskow used to say, sports was the 8th period of the day. And he was right. But we also have 40 plus clubs and other moderated activities beyond athletics. So our school is just as alive at 4 o'clock as it is in 10 in the morning. And we're proud of that. We're proud to have those well-rounded students. So again, I'm the biggest fan in the school. I try to get to as much as I can at all 3 levels, whether it's varsity, JV, or freshman, wherever those other levels are offered. I know Mr. DeConti will take you through all of our offerings for the upcoming year. Fall is actually our smallest season, if you will, and just in terms of we don't offer the most sports in the fall compared to the winter and the spring. But again, he will take you through all that process. But at this time, I just want to turn it over to our principal, Mr. Brendan Donahue. I wish all of you a wonderful, healthy, happy start to the school year, and we look forward to seeing you at all of our parent events along the way. Mr. Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Eustace, and thank you all for being here tonight. As you all know, you as parents, we as educators form a very vital partnership in the education and development of your sons. And we are keenly aware of that sacred trust that you place in us every day by sending your sons to us. So we take that role very seriously, and we always aim to have your son's best interest in mind. Our mission is to help your sons grow spiritually, intellectually, and physically. And with that in mind, I have a few brief comments. I do want to also congratulate Mr. DeConti on his appointment to his position. I've worked with Mr. DeConti for many years, and I know he's going to do a phenomenal job. So welcome to Mr. DeConti. A few quick things from my perspective. First, understand that we want your sons to be well-rounded. Intellectual, spiritual, physical development are all essential for him to grow into the man that we all hope he becomes. Playing on a Xavier team is a great way to accomplish that. And it most often nicely complements one another, and it complements what we are trying to achieve in the classroom and in his emotional and spiritual growth as well. The regimen of athletics helps a young man with his academic discipline, his time management. However, sometimes playing on a team can also become too great a commitment for some students. It is a privilege to play on a Xavier team. And if a student's priorities become misaligned and his time management skills are not quite what they should be, This is the point where we as adults may need to step in to assist him. So this may mean that a student athlete may have to sacrifice some athletic time in order to get his academic affairs in order. The bottom line is that academics will always come first when those conflicts arise. And there may be times when we might have to tell your son that he may not be able to participate for a period of time in athletics. Of course, those times are few and far between, and we will always work with your son, right, to get him back on track in both academics and athletics. Another goal of ours is to have your son resolve conflicts on his own whenever possible. And we ask that you please allow your son this opportunity. Those of you who are returning parents know that this works quite nicely at Xavier. As freshmen coming in, they might be a little timid or afraid to do this. But learning how the chain of command works is a great life lesson. If any student athlete has a conflict or an issue related to athletics, we are going to want him to first attempt to resolve that one-on-one with his coach. He should approach his coach and have a man-to-man conversation with him. Of course, if a student athlete has sincerely attempted to do this and feels that things are unresolved, that's when the athletic director would step in. And so please feel free to have your sons approach Mr. DeConti to help him resolve those issues. We hope that most issues would be resolved on that level. Of course, at times the administration may need to get involved, but this again should be few and far between. Of course, my door is always open to your sons, and I'll be happy to sit and listen to any issue the student may have. But I will always ask him if he has first gone to discuss things with his coach. So parents, we'd ask you to do the same and help us to educate your son in this regard to resolve those differences. A few words about fan behavior. Of course, we're very, very proud of our student athletes and want what is best for them. And at Xavier, we have a great winning tradition for many, many years in many sports. But more than winning, Xavier is known around the state as being a class act. We expect this out of our students. We have high expectations for them, and we also expect it out of our fans. So we ask you to please help us to maintain that standard. As you cheer for your sons, remember that you are part of the Xavier community. You are part of a larger community, and your actions will reflect on our entire community for good or for ill. So you as spectators are asked to be respectful at all times to athletes and coaches, to the opposing teams, players, fans, school, and to the officials, of course. I also would note that Xavier is an alcohol, vape, and tobacco-free campus for all student activities. So this goes for athletic events as well. So we ask you to honor that policy, not just at our home games, but at away games as well. We also would ask you to give our players and coaches as much space as possible. So your presence at games and matches is essential to your son's success. And obviously we welcome great parent support at all our athletic events. Sometimes parent presence at a practice or around the locker room can become detrimental. So just please be conscious of this at all times. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, we're all passionate about athletics. And sometimes conversations are best left for when cooler heads may prevail. So if you wish to speak to any member of our athletic department, please just be aware of that, be sensitive to that. If you feel it might be a contentious matter, please wait. 24-hour rule is probably a good thing. Contact the athletic director, and we can always set up a time to talk about those things. So I would also just like to say how much I appreciate all your support for our school in general and for our athletic program in particular. As a parent myself, I know the firsthand many sacrifices that you all make for your sons, and we thank you for that dedication. We could not do it without you. We could not do it without the tremendous support of all of you as parents. I want to also recognize our athletic director, our coaches, and our trainer for the tremendous work they all do in forming your sons into being men like Christ. In closing, I'd just like to to paraphrase a quote from the legendary Notre Dame coach, Dan Devine. He said this of his players, and we say it of ours here at Xavier. Leave the field a better player, leave Xavier High School a better man. So if you and we working together can accomplish that, we know will have been successful. Thank you very much for all your support, and I will turn things back over to Mr. DeCon.
Thanks, Mr. Donahue. Just as a reminder, if you have any questions during the presentation, on the bottom of your screen, there is a place for you to type your questions using the Q&A feature. At this time, I'm going to introduce Brian Elliott. Brian Elliott is our head athletic trainer who comes to us from Select Physical Therapy, and you will hear all of the great things that Brian does for Xavier.
Thank you, Dan. Mr. Eustace, Mr. Donahue, thank you for your time for speaking to the group today. As you can see on the slide in front of you, I do work for Select Physical Therapy. I am usually here on a daily basis between 1:15, 1:30, and I leave at the end of whatever is on tap for the day, whether it be practice or a competition. So I'm usually here till the end of those activities. So I'm here for a pretty good chunk of time. So on the slide as well is my my cell phone number, 860-707-9601. Please feel free to call or text me if you have any issues. My email is right underneath that. I do encourage you to email me as well. Just a couple of real quick bullet points. If your son does get hurt during one of our practice or competitions, you will be hearing from me. Whether it's an ankle sprain, concussion, that type of a thing. I pride myself on being as open as I can with the parents, especially when the kids get hurt. I don't want to have any lack of communication. So if your son does get hurt during one of our practice or competitions, you will be hearing from me. We had some issues already. Two of our football fields, our teams are on the field right now as we speak. So we're rolling here at Xavier. So just a couple of things. We've done the majority of the impact testing, which is our concussive baseline testing with the football team already. And I want to thank the parents for their flexibility on that. And it wasn't easy, especially with the freshmen getting them in here on kind of a last minute thing on Friday. So I appreciate the flexibility on that. Going forward, we do have the soccer team that we will be doing at some point next week. One of the luxuries we do have this year is having the ability to do it here in school. We do have a way to do it at home, but I would prefer to have it done in a bigger group. Social distancing, masks. That's what we did on Friday with the freshmen. That seemed to work out pretty well in the cafeteria. So hopefully we can get that done with our soccer players as well. We will wait till all cuts are made from soccer. That way, I see a question on here. Impact testing. I'll answer this one now. Impact testing is a neuropsych computer test. It's colors, designs. It's basically a lot of memory stuff. We do it as a baseline in case your son does get a concussion during the school year during one of our events. I have something to compare it to as far as baseline numbers are concerned. If you want to go more into depth, please shoot me an email and I will be glad to do more talking about that as we speak. So you're welcome. So like I said, we'll wait till the soccer team has its final cuts, which I do believe will probably be beginning of next week before we do the impact testing with them. Return to play. We'll talk about COVID first. We've already had some issues as far as getting cleared. So if your son has tested positive for COVID, doesn't matter where it was, or excuse me, not where it was, when it was at this point, we've tried to narrow down a date as far as we can go back. But even the DPH here in Middletown is kind of letting us do our own thing. So I don't think anyone wants to kind of pinpoint a day as to when the drop dead as far as when COVID is concerned. So if your son has tested positive at any point for COVID and they are going to try out for a CIAC sport, we will be sending you a form that needs to be filled out by your doctor in order for them to go forward as far as participation is concerned. Like I said, I just got a note in my box from one of the soccer kids' parents. It was I think they had it back in January. So this is how far we've been going back. So one of the issues here is this athlete didn't play a winter or a spring sport. So Mr. DeConti and I were talking earlier, and we kind of hope that we can go forward without any more issues once the fall season is underway here. So, but like I said, if we do have an athlete test positive or it has tested positive, we do need to have that form signed and checked off by your doctor. And I see a lot of impact questions. I'll get to the impact questions here once I'm done with my little spiel. I see a lot of impact question coming in, so that's great. So also with the COVID, is a return to play protocol. Most of the time at this point, especially since the athletes that we're dealing with now have had it probably 8, 9, 10 months ago at this point, there is a physical return to play protocol that they must go through. But if they've been doing summer leagues, AAU, that type of a thing, that's more than sufficient in my eyes as far as their return to play is concerned, because the return to play is a stepwise program that we have to go through, and it's I think the first day is 20 minutes, then another 20 minutes, then it goes up to an hour of activity. So by all means, some of your sons in their summer programs have been going a couple hours, hour and a half, soccer games, lacrosse games, that type of thing. So far be it for me to have to go through that protocol if they've already exceeded the parameters for the return to play as far as the COVID is concerned. So just the bottom line here is, like I said, if we have an athlete test positive, we do have a form that the CIAC requires prior to them getting back on the playing field or court, and the return to play, which we can go over on an individual basis. As far as the concussion is concerned, concussions are in inevitable part of sports. Unfortunately, we've already had a couple of football players with issues with their heads at this point. So we've definitely turned a corner as far as the complete darkness, no screen time, that type of a thing. The urgency is to get them back to some sort of physical activity quicker rather than later at this point. So we do have a return to play at that point as well, once they are symptom free. And if they do end up going to the doctor has to clear them. We will start the return to play. That is a 4 or 5 day step protocol that we have to follow. It is a 15 minutes of exercise one day. Next day is 20 minutes, 25 minutes of a different form of exercise. These have to be symptom free at this point. And day 3, this is where the impact testing comes in. I do need to retest them as far as impact is concerned. I need their numbers to be equal to, if not better, than their baseline test. So once again, I do need to retest them on day 3. Their numbers need to be equal to or better than their baseline test, which is where's the importance of completing the baseline test before we get going too far into the season here. If we do have any issues, like I said, I do need to fall back on the baseline testing. Then days 4 and days 5 are a gradual return to activity, sports specific skills, back to sports, no contact, and then ultimately a full day of practice. I do need to have the student athlete complete 1 full day of practice before they return to competition. So if they're coming back and they have a soccer game on a Tuesday night and they've only completed 4 days, and this will be day 5, they're not going to be able to play on that game on a Tuesday night, because I do need to have them go through a full day of practice prior to a full return to activity. Just so you're aware of that, they do need to go through a full day of practice before they go back to competition. So, like I said, I do have a lot of questions here as far as impact is concerned. No, we're doing. We haven't done cross country in the past. That's something we can revisit if that's an issue. I know last year we did not do it. Last year was my first year here. I have done cross country in the past. That's certainly open for debate whether we need to do cross country or not. As far as testing, oh, wait. That's a good question. As far as COVID is concerned, if we have a positive test, I think that as far as the CIAC is concerned, if there's no proof of a positive test, then they do not have to go through that return or have that form signed. It's only a positive test. Dave, I know you answered the impact testing. Thank you for doing that. What is impact? I think I've done that as right. So okay, it looks like that's all the questions on the impacts. Thank you for your questions. I do hope that I've answered them. I won't take up too much more of your time. Like I said, I'm here on a daily basis, pretty much every Saturday as well, whenever we do have practice or a competition. So all my contact information is on this slide. It's also on our website, I believe, as well. Do not hesitate to call me or to email me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the health of your son. And that's it for me. So thank you for the time, and I look forward to working with you again this year. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. I can't tell you guys how great it is to have Brian on our staff. Like Mr. Eustace said, I've been here a long time. I think I'm starting my 15th year, and Brian's been with us for 2 years now, and he's absolutely fantastic in terms of accurately diagnosing injuries, getting people the proper care, and rehabbing quickly to get your son back on the field as safe as possible. So we're very lucky to have Brian with us.
Thank you, Dan.
Patrick is supposed to be here. He said he was going to jump on around 6:30. So I will get started with my portion. And then when Patrick comes on, I will stop and let him just give a brief overview of Select Physical Therapy. So at Xavier, we are a member of the CIAC, the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference, which means that we have to abide by their rules. Specifically, we are a member of the Southern Connecticut Conference. As you can see here, our fall sports begin on August 26th for soccer and cross country. That's this Thursday. Our sailing program and our crew program will be starting on September 7th when we get back from Labor Day. In the winter, we have basketball, fencing, ice hockey, indoor track, rifle, swimming and diving, and wrestling. Both wrestling and hockey will begin on November 29th. All other sports during the winter will begin on December 2nd, with the exception of rifle. Rifle kind of falls in between the fall season and the winter season because it is not technically a CIAC sport. They will start towards late October and they run to about mid-March. And then in the spring, all of our sports begin at the same time on March 19th. You can see all of our sports there. Baseball, we offer crew again, golf, lacrosse, tennis, track and field, sailing, ultimate frisbee, and volleyball. So between all 3 seasons, we offer 19 different sports, with the majority of our sports offering at least 2 levels, and in most cases, 3 levels. So in terms of freshmen, which is primarily what this meeting is for tonight, there are lots of opportunities for your son to be involved in something and find his place on a sports team. I know that there was a question in the chat regarding family ID. So in order to play sports here, you must be registered and approved through Family ID. For our fall sports, the registration period closed on August 20th. And we are currently working through the approval process for soccer and cross country to start on the 26th. We had 292 people register for fall sports. And there are 31 people who have not heard from me whether or not their status would be approved or not approved. Our nurse does not work during the summer. She does not get paid to work during the summer. She just started yesterday, full time back in the building, and she has been working around the clock clearing physicals on Family ID. She sent me messages last night all the way up until 11:30, letting me know of athletes who were cleared. So we are working on that. There may be a few of you who haven't heard from me yet. I'm hoping that you will hear from me tomorrow. The only way that you would not be approved through Family ID after you register is because your physical has expired, or we don't have your physical. So that is the biggest thing. If you're a fall sports athlete, please make sure that your son has a physical on file with the nurse's office, or that it's uploaded to Family ID, and that physical has been done within the last 13 months. Physicals are valid for 13 months. So winter sports, you can see we'll open the winter sports registration around October 15th. And we'll close that just before Thanksgiving so that we can approve all of the athletes that need to be approved. And then in the spring, we'll open that around February 15th and let that run through early March, again, giving enough time to approve our spring athletes for spring sports. You will receive communication from me when those dates open, just like you did about the Zoom meeting tonight. You will get that email that says that Family ID is open and when to register and when it closes. I'm just going to pause here for a second. As you can see, Patrick McLaughlin has signed on. Patrick runs Select Physical Therapy here out of Middletown. He's a great resource for us, and I want to give him an opportunity to introduce himself and talk about some of the things that Select offers to our Xavier athletes.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. As Dan mentioned, we have I work for Select Physical Therapy. I am a market manager and a treating therapist out of our Middletown clinic, which is right on Main Street in Middletown, right in the same plaza as the movie theater right in Metro Square. And, we've had the pleasure of working with not only Dan, but, the Xavier community for the last 5 to 6 years. It's been a privilege to be able to work with the athletes and just the school itself and the whole community that is Xavier. And, I'm sure he's mentioned Brian Elliott, who is our athletic trainer at the school, who works, with me at Select and directly at the school as the athletic trainer with the athletes. And my role is to kind of help, establish and oversee essentially our sports medicine program. We have Brian, who's directly at the school providing athletic training services. So whenever your sons do get hurt, they get injured or whatever it may be, Brian's the direct contact there at the school. He's the one overseeing those services. And then, my main job as a physical therapist, as part of Select Medical is to ensure that, the athlete's care is, first and foremost, and they're getting the attention that they need. I think a lot of people get the misperception and misconception that, we want to kind of hinder their ability to play and we want to take them away from the sport, the practice, the games, but that's not necessarily what our job entails. And, we work alongside with not just Brian, athletic trainer at the school, but with the coaches and all the staff to ensure that the management that they're getting is to help them play, right? I think 90% of the time, the athletes that get hurt, we're just managing their symptoms, managing their care to help them either get through practice, get through the season. And that's kind of, my role as a physical therapist. And with that said, we, as Select, including Brian and myself, we try to have an over-encompassing sports medicine model. We work closely with specific orthopedic group in town, Orthopedic Associates of Middletown. Dr. Michael Kuhn and his PA, Kevin Belanger, are the ones that sign the standing orders for the school. They're present at the football games. They just had a good dedication to the Xavier community over the last few years. Maybe a number of your children, your sons I've seen them already, but they really embrace the community over, as Xavier, and they love seeing that population. And I think the biggest aspect of it is the availability and the approachability that, they have is, they're, as soon as, somebody maybe gets hurt, or if there's not even just injuries, any issues or concerns that, the athlete may have, the coaches or even Brian, the athletic trainer at the school may have, we have direct contact with them. We can text them, we call them, and they are they're available in terms of getting them in as soon as possible to kind of for whatever needs they have. The biggest thing, I want to be is available for not just the athletes, but, the parents, in addition to that. I give out my cards and my cell phone number on it, because I want them to feel comfortable reaching out to me with any concerns, whether it's, lingering issues, any significant injuries that they may have. So I want to have, and I welcome, those phone calls and those text messages from the staff or from the athletes and the parents themselves. We do have our main office, or my main office, I should say, is in Middletown. It's on Main Street, but we do have clinics in surrounding areas. I know Xavier has a good footprint across, Middlesex County and extending, to various towns. And, we do have availability in other towns. I help to oversee our Hagenham and Durham office. We have a Weathersfield office as well. And in addition to that, Newington, Berlin, we have a good footprint in Central Connecticut, where a lot of, the athletes are coming from, not just in Middletown. So I want to, make everybody available that, not only are we trying to provide those services, in the Middletown area, but also in surrounding towns. And, we've talked to Dan about this in the spring, and I think we're going to touch on this again in the fall, is that we'd love to be able to set up a little bit of on-site services as well. And I think that's something that, as the season approaches, Dan, myself, and Brian, and even Dave, we'll sit down and kind of determine what a good schedule would be to, for those athletes that maybe aren't able to drive, or, maybe challenging to get over to one of the clinics if their services are needed. We could provide that on site right in the training room with the equipment that is available. So, I welcome any questions that you guys have. Going forward, I try to pop into the school every week to develop that relationship with some of the athletes, some that I already have ongoing. But I have my cards there, and if you have any questions, you could always reach out to Dan. He's willing to pass my information along as well. So.
Patrick, just one question, and I think you mentioned it, but I think it's worth mentioning again. There was a question that came in that just said, is there a team MD or ortho? So if you just want to just recap that one more time quickly.
Yes. So, we do work closely with Dr. Michael Kuhn and his PA, Kevin Belanger. They are right in Middletown on Old Saybrook Road. They are out of Orthopedic Associates of Middletown, and they are the ones that sign the standing orders. And, they are, I think I mentioned that they are the ones that, really embrace, this athlete population. And Dr. Kuhn has a very extensive history dating back to his days in the Navy. And he's seen this population for many years, and just is great, great bedside, and just great rapport with his not only his patients, but the athletes themselves. So he's the one that we typically go to, with any athlete care.
Thanks, Patrick.
All right. Awesome. Hope to meet you guys in the near future.
Thank you. Okay, so again, just going back to what I was saying before, we've got about 10 minutes here before I'll be wrapping up, so it won't be too much longer. You can see when the registration on Family ID will happen, right? Again, so you need to register on Family ID, and then also provide the nurse with a copy of the physical. You can send in your physicals if you have them. You can do that now. You don't have to wait until you register for sports. Or you can upload them through Family ID when you register. Again, the most important part of that is that physical has happened within the last 13 months. Your doctor would fill out the state health form in that case. If for some reason your physical is about to expire, or it already has expired, and you're having a hard time getting into your son's pediatrician, any walk-in will do a pre-participation physical. This does come with a cost. I'm not sure what the cost is, but you can get a pre-participation physical done as well. Some other required forms is the parent handbook. When you register on Family ID, you are going to sign off that you've read the parent handbook. The parent handbook can also be found on our website, which is xavierfalcons.com, and it can be found under the Inside Athletics tab. There you can read about some of the academic eligibility things that Mr. Donahue had spoken about. You'll see the attendance policy for school, the attendance policy for practices and games. Our chemical health policy is also listed on there, and then some of the important rules around CIAC. So the Xavier Falcons website is a great website to go to, not only for our parent handbook, but just for the upcoming sporting events. Once our athletes have their pictures taken, our varsity athletes will have their pictures posted with their roster. The schedules can be found there. There's a lot of great things on that website. So if you haven't been there yet, I would encourage you to take a look at xavierfalcons.com. Tryout process. For the teams that have tryouts will be held over a 3-day period before cuts are made. We do require coaches to meet with each athlete and to let them know the results of their tryout. And that means it may be a quick conversation. Hey, you made the team, congratulations. It may be a conversation about where they see that player on the team, or it may be to let them know that, right now it's not the right fit for the team, where to go, if they need a place to go play, how to get better, what we were looking for. But every coach is required to meet with a student athlete and sort of discuss their tryout with them. During every sports season, there is at least one non-cutting sport. Typically that has either cross country, indoor or outdoor track. If we have space, we can get you into sailing or fencing or even crew if that's an option. Once your son does get cut from his sport, if he would like to, he will have 3 days to decide if he wants to join a non-cutting sport for that season. There's a question here. How can we find out which sports don't cut members? Again, I just said it's in the fall season. It is our cross-country team. If we have space, which we don't right now, our sailing program is full, we can get you into sailing. In the winter season, it would be indoor track, fencing. There may be some other opportunities depending on your son's interests. If we have a space in our swimming and diving program, but so there's that. And then again, in the outdoor season, it would be outdoor track and field, quite possibly again sailing or crew. But we have at least one, and in some case more than one, where we have opportunities for your son to join a non-cutting sport. I took this rule specifically out of the CIAC handbook because I think this is important for incoming parents to understand. And this is regarding in-season participation, right? And I'm just going to read the rule directly. Participation as an individual or as a member on a non-school sponsored team in a sports competition, practice, showcase, tryout, camp or clinic at any level of play, including professional, in the same branch of athletics during the authorized contest season will render the athlete ineligible for all interscholastic athletics. So what that means is that you cannot play on an outside team during the same season that you're participating with Xavier. If you're playing soccer on our soccer team, you cannot continue to play with FSA. If you're playing hockey, you cannot continue with your youth team. Basketball, you can't continue with an AAU team. So once you decide that you're going to commit to playing for Xavier, you have to remove yourself from your non-Xavier team during the season. Okay, we have a lot of hockey players who will play for their youth team. They will leave for the high school season, and then they will rejoin their youth team after their hockey season is over. If a player violates this rule, he is considered an ineligible player. And if he continues to participate in contests with Xavier, Xavier would then be in violation for using an ineligible player and would have to forfeit the games that player participated in. So it's very important that you please understand this rule. If you decide to play for Xavier, that's great. We welcome you. We love to have you. But then you have to remove yourself from your youth team until your season is over. If you haven't,
typically, folks, will see these issues with soccer, hockey, and basketball, and sometimes lacrosse. So those tend to be the four. And you just got to make sure, even in the fall, if you're playing soccer and, you know, an Olympic development program through USA Soccer invites you for a tryout, you cannot participate as long as you are rostered at Xavier High School. Once the season ends around November, you can then go do those things.
And again, if you're not sure, please call me and ask, and I will get you the correct answer. I would assume swimming as well for the winter, correct? Ian, I'm not sure what, yes, swimming, if you cannot swim for Xavier and for your outside team at the same time. So if you have any more questions about that or something specific related to that, you can give me a call. Mr. Donahue talked a little bit about this. I just want to talk about communication and the chain of command. As you know, or if you don't know, you will soon learn, Xavier's motto here is to be a man. Part of being a man is advocating for yourself. And so we encourage our athletes to initiate the communication with their coach first. If that answer that comes back is not satisfactory, then I would ask the parent to get involved. And then if that answer is still not satisfactory, you could bring that to my level, and I would be happy to have a conversation with you. But it really should start first with your son and their coach having a conversation about any issues. So just quickly on communication, what you can expect from a coach in terms of communication, you can expect rules and expectations that the coach has for the student athlete. For the fall sports, those meetings, coach, I know some coaches have already had their fall meeting. I've asked all coaches to complete their fall meetings for parents by the week of Labor Day. So by September 10th, everybody should have had their parent meeting so that they know what the rules and expectations are for the team. You should also expect a coach to talk about the locations and the times of practices, any team requirements that they may have, or any disciplinary actions that could result in a dismissal. For example, having to remove yourself from a team. So I see a question came in here. What if you're playing a different sport, playing football for Xavier, but baseball on an off day? That is allowed by the CIAC. That's very tough to do. That could be very taxing on your outside time. I would expect that your commitment to Xavier football comes first, but in terms of CIAC rules, that is not a violation. Part of the communication plan, what coaches should expect from parents. Please notify the coach well in advance if you know that there's any scheduling conflict. For the most part, our practice times are very consistent. They all stay the same. For the fall season, the schedules are already posted, so you have access to those. So if you know that there's going to be a conflict, please let your coach know of any issues. And then any other concerns or questions or other information regarding a student athlete. Appropriate times for coach and parent discussion would be concerns about the treatment of a student athlete, whether that's mentally or physically, ways to help the student athlete improve in their game, concerns about student athlete behavior, or any advice on camps, clinics, or participation at the next level of competition. Some of the things that we're doing here, as Mr. Eustace had mentioned, masks, it's a state policy, masks in the building and transportation. We're also encouraging social distancing for team meetings and on our field. Students are asked to do a daily screening when they come into school. Coaches are confirming that daily screening when they go to practice. Should the event arise, we'll be doing contact tracing. We are using the locker room. Our students do have access to the locker room. We're asking them just to change quickly and to head out to their practice. They're not allowed to hang around in the locker room before or after school. It's strictly just to change and move on. We are cleaning and sanitizing the locker room nightly. As of right now, unless things change, attendance at games is welcome. Everybody is welcome to attend. For anything that we're holding outside, masks are not required. And we are looking forward to having people back supporting our student athletes. And then our practices and our games, Again, everything is outside right now, so masks are not required. We're just encouraging our coaches not to bring anybody in for a team huddle and just to keep everybody as distant as they can. Just so everybody understands where we are, there's a couple different scenarios that the CIAC put out in terms of COVID guidance. Any athlete who is fully vaccinated, who is a close contact, they do not have to quarantine as long as they are asymptomatic, but they will have to wear a mask while they practice and while they compete until they receive a negative COVID test. And that test can take place anywhere between 3 to 5 days from the close contact, or they would have to wear a mask for 14 days without a test. Anybody who's a close contact who is unvaccinated, they will have to quarantine for 10 days and then provide a negative test. Again, you can get tested after the 7th day, or they would need to wait 14 days without a COVID test. If a vaccinated or an unvaccinated person should test positive, they will need to quarantine for 10 days, and then they will need to provide that negative test. And then they must comply with the COVID return to play protocol, which is what Mr. Elliott had talked about earlier, where they'll need to be seen by their doctor. They will need to have the doctor sign off that they're cleared to play, and then they will need to go through the 7-day return to play protocol. We have absolutely no wiggle room on this. This is not a Xavier rule. This is CIAC rule. So please just understand, again, this is not about telling anybody what they should do. This is strictly the rules that we have to follow. Fully vaccinated, you do not have to quarantine. You just need to provide a negative test and wear a mask. Unvaccinated would have to quarantine and provide that negative test. And then if anybody did test positive, they would have to go through the quarantine and the return to play. If you have any questions about that, again, please give me a call or feel free to reach out to me. There was a question, Mr. Eustace just answered it. We don't have any guidance yet in the winter. I know that for the fall season, the CIAC is requiring masks for indoor sports in the fall. So I would imagine that something like that could be the same for the winter. But obviously it's too early to tell. And the guidance has been changing quite a bit. So when I do get winter sports guidance, I will update everybody again through email about what guidance will be for winter sports. That's it. Again, thank you for joining us tonight. Teamwork has never been more important. It's everybody's responsibility to adhere to the protocols, to make sure that you're doing your daily screenings, cleaning your equipment at night. Please make sure that you're bringing your own personal water bottle. We will have water jugs to fill, but we should not be sharing water bottles. So please make sure that you're bringing your own personal water bottle. Communicate effectively with your coach. If you're not feeling well for any reason, please stay home and do your part to make sure that everybody can have a safe and fun athletic season. Are spectators allowed for freshman football scrimmages on the lower field? Josh, why don't you give me a call on that and we can talk about it. Okay, that's it for me. Again, I appreciate everybody for joining. If you have any questions, you do have my email address and my office number. And I look forward to seeing you all real soon. Again, thank you for coming and have a good night.